America is full of stories. Some are told with pride, others whispered in fear. But there's a darker side to this country. A side hidden behind quiet streets, forgotten towns, and abandoned roads. Tonight, you're about to hear 10 of the most chilling true horror stories from across the United States. These aren't ghost stories or urban legends. These are real, raw, and unsettling accounts from people who lived through terrifying experiences that they'll never forget. From eerie, deserted motels in the South to strange disappearances in the North, these stories will take you places you didn't think existed and make you question if the things we can't see are truly gone or if they're still out there. If you're ready, step in, but be warned. Once you hear these stories, there's no going back. The forest swallowed her whole. One moment, a woman in a gray hoodie was sprinting through the trees of Rock Island, her figure a blur against the dusk. I shouted, thinking she was in trouble, but she vanished. No footsteps, no trace, only piercing squeal that clawed at the air, like a curse from the woods themselves. My heart hammered. I was alone, a mile from the nearest soul on an island whispered to be cursed. Who was she? And why did that sound feel like it was calling me? My name is Sam, and this is the story of my first and last trip to Rock Island, where the forest hid something ancient, something with eyes that burned in the dark. It saw me, and it wasn't letting go. I'd arrived on Rock Island, Wisconsin in August 2021. Chasing solitude after a year of burnout. I took my first and last trip to Rock Island after taking 2 ferry rides. I booked the remote campsite E, which is a backpacking site that is a little over a mile from the dock. The island was a hiker's dream, rugged trails, a lighthouse, with a grim past and eerie structures left by a reclusive businessman. I took my time hiking out to the site to enjoy the scenery and took a couple of breaks just due to how heavy my pack was. I was definitely packed more for camping than hiking, to be honest. The remoteness thrilled me, but as I pitched my tent, a prickle of unease crept in, like the trees were whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. The runner appeared as I set up my fire. As I was setting some sticks up on my fire ring, something caught my eye, and I looked up. Fairly far away, it looked like it might have been at maybe Site D, or a little further, was a person running in my direction. My first thought was, well, that's odd because it's not even really a trail that they were on. I assumed she was a lost camper, maybe hurt. They got a little closer and it looked like maybe it was a woman in loose gray clothes, maybe a hoodie. It was still far enough away, I can't see the details. I stood, ready to help, but then came the sound. A single sort of high-pitched squeal, noise coming from the forest. It didn't sound close, but it was such an unusual sound that I stopped in my tracks and waited for a good 30 seconds, waiting to see if it would happen again. It was like a pig caught in a trap, raw and unnatural. When I looked back, she was gone. I stood there and scanned the trees, but I didn't see them anywhere. I was honestly so confused that I was just kind of frozen for a few seconds. The path wasn't a trail, just a worn ridge between campsites. Sites C, D, and E are grouped together, but there's probably 100 yards between each site. There's not a real trail connecting the 3 sites directly, but enough people have walked along the ridge between the 3 sites that there's an obvious path now. No one could vanish that fast without a trace. I reasoned she ducked into sight, maybe heading for the pit toilet west of the sites. I tried to forget about it, but it really bothered me, I'm not going to lie. I really did not like whatever that squeal noise was too, and I don't know. I just felt strange all of a sudden. The forest felt heavier, the air thicker, as if something had noticed me. I pushed through, focusing on camp. I started gathering sticks and driftwood from the beach so I could start a fire. On my 3rd trip back from the beach before I got back to my campsite, I heard a single sort of high-pitched squeal noise coming from the forest. I froze again, waiting, but it didn't repeat. I continued back to my site, and when I got back, I began working on getting a fire started. I cooked a meal, sipped a beer, and tried to shake the unease. I had a quick meal and a couple of adult beverages and then decided to take a little walk. I hiked to sites C and D, hoping to find other campers, someone to ground me. I didn't see sites C or D yet, so I thought that I would check those out and see if I did have some neighbors camping nearby or something. I continued on to site E and saw that there was a tent up. A couple in their 30s, friendly but tipsy, greeted me. I came up on the site and there was a couple sitting at the picnic table. I introduced myself, and they introduced themselves, too. They were probably in their mid-30s and they were really nice too. They hadn't seen a runner and I didn't ask about the squeal. It felt too strange. I didn't ask about the runner in the end or the squealing noises because I thought that might be weird. And in the end, I just wished them a good night and walked back to my tent. Back at camp, I lit a cigar, stared at the stars, and tried to convince myself it was nothing. When I got back, I had a cigar and a few more drinks. It got dark and it started as a perfect night. The sky was clear, and I was just staring up and looking at the millions of stars. I journaled. August 14th. Dusk. Woman in gray hoodie running, vanished. Squeal like an animal, no source. Site D, empty. The act of writing grounded me, but the dread lingered. I felt better about everything from earlier and felt a little bit stupid about the whole thing, and decided in the end to just get some sleep. I zipped my tent, knife close, and drifted off, unaware that the night would bring a terror I couldn't explain. The island's history gnawed at me as I settled in. Rock Island wasn't just a park. It was a place of stories, of loss. The lighthouse keeper, David Corbin, had written of strange visitors in the 1840s, shadows that moved without sound. Chester Thorson, the businessman who owned the island, in the early 20th century, had built cryptic structures. A stone wall, a water tower, a great hall filled with occult books. The Native Americans, the Potawatomi, called it a sacred place, a boundary between worlds. I'd read about these before coming, dismissing them as folklore. But now, with that squeal echoing in my mind, I wondered if I'd stepped into something I didn't understand. I wasn't a stranger to solo camping, but this was different. The isolation, the remoteness, amplified every sound, every shadow. I'd camped in the Rockies, the Appalachians, places wilder than this, but none felt so alive. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches clawing at the sky. I checked. My gear, tent secure, knife sharp, phone charged. I told myself I was prepared, but for what? A lost camper, an animal, or something else, something the island had kept hidden for centuries? The night was a restless dance of sounds. Crickets, wind, then silence, as if the island held its breath. Around midnight, the high-pitched squeal noise returned, closer, cutting through the dark like a blade. I heard that high-pitched squeal, noise again. This time it was behind me, and it was much closer. I bolted upright, unzipping my tent, flashlight in hand. I turned around to look behind me. I scanned the trees for a couple of seconds, but didn't see or hear anything. The beam caught nothing but trees, their shadows twisting in the wind. I turned back around because I knew the running person must be getting close now, but they were gone. The air was thick, electric, like a storm was brewing, though the sky was clear. I sealed the tent, my hands trembling, and scribbled in my journal. 12:04 a.m., squeal. Louder, no source. Something's here. I tried to explain it away. I knew that there were no real dangerous animals on Rock Island. There are deer and porcupines, but nothing like bear or wolves. Knowing that still didn't make me feel better though, because there was just something about that squeal that it just seemed, I don't know, weird to me. The squeal wasn't animal. It was deliberate, almost mocking. Then came the footsteps, slow, heavy, circling my tent. I continued to lay in my tent, and that's when I started to hear footsteps outside my tent. It was still raining, so the sounds were a little bit buried in the sound of the rain, but it definitely sounded like a somewhat large animal or human walking around. My breath hitched. I clutched my knife, whispering, "It's just a deer. You're fine." I sat up in my tent and I took a knife out that I had just to feel better in my head. I just kept saying, it's just an animal, it's fine, there's nothing in these woods that can hurt you. But the steps were too precise, too close, pacing with intent. I stayed still, counting seconds, praying they'd fade. I listened. As the footsteps started moving away from my tent, relief was fleeting. The squeal erupted again, a very loud squeal, and this time it was right outside my tent. It felt like my heart just stopped, and a shiver went down my spine. My body pulsed with adrenaline, my ears ringing. I forced out a shout, "Get out of here!" as loud and mean as I could. I took everything in me, but I forced out a "Get out of here!" Not shouting, but a stern and mean-sounding voice as I could make at that moment. After that, I didn't hear any more squeal or footsteps the rest of the night. Silence returned, but it was heavy, oppressive, like the island was watching, waiting. I didn't sleep. I just sat there in my tent for maybe an hour before I laid down. Eventually the rain stopped, and I kept laying there until the sun came up, just listening all that time. At dawn, I emerged, bleary-eyed, and saw the damage. I stepped outside of my tent and saw that my picnic table had been turned over and was now upside down. When I saw this, I surprisingly calmly thought, "Oh, okay, this is enough. I'm leaving the island today." The table was heavy, bolted to the ground. Wind couldn't do that. I eventually reasoned with myself that the wind must have blown the table over during the storm. It still seemed a little bit strange because the table was pretty heavy, and I felt like I would have heard the table flip over that night. I checked my surroundings and nothing else seemed out of place. But then I saw them, tracks in the mud, long, clawed, circling my tent. They weren't deer, not porcupine. They were something else, something wrong. I made coffee, ate, and tried to focus on the day's hike, the 7-mile Thorson Loop Trail, known for its historic sites. I made some cold instant coffee and had a bite to eat, started to feel a bit better about the whole thing, and then I decided to go for a hike. I admit, too, that I get easily scared when I'm camping by myself in the woods. Maybe that's natural. After I had some coffee and food and the sun came out, I realized that nothing I'd heard or saw was really anything that couldn't be explained. But those tracks haunted me. I photographed them, my hands shaking, and packed my gear, planning to leave. The reason that I came to the island in the first place was to hike the 7-mile Thorson Loop Trail that has a lot of interesting things to see, and I was excited to start the hike today. The trail took me past the water tower, its stone walls holding a recent fire's ashes. Fairly close to my site is the water tower. I have no idea how it originally worked or why it had to be a tower, but it's an impressive building with a fireplace. It looked like someone had recently had a fire in it. I visited the cemetery where 2 sisters were buried, their graves marked by weathered stones. I kept walking on the trail until I came to a nice scenic overlook area with a bench where I sat down and drank some water. It's believed that there are still more buried here in the unmarked graves, too. The island's history pressed down: Native American burial grounds, a lighthouse keeper's lonely death, a businessman's occult obsession. There is also at least one Native American burial area on the island too, but no one knows exactly where that is. I wondered if I'd trespassed, if the squeal was a warning from something ancient tied to the land. At the overlook, I heard voices, deep, guttural, not English. I started to hear some talking on the trail ahead of me, but I couldn't see anyone yet. There was a bend in the trail and the trees were thick, so I sat on the bench waiting for these people to come around the bend. The voices were coming closer and I could tell that they weren't speaking English, but I couldn't place what the language it might have been. Then, a sharp ooh sound came from the woods. Back deep in the woods, I heard a loud and quick sort of ooh sound. The voices echoed it like a playful mimicry. Immediately, both the voices that I was listening to responded with their own oohs. I smiled, thinking they were joking, but when I walked the trail, no one was there. The strangest thing is that I never found those people. That was really weird, too, because I could have sworn that they must have been on that trail somewhere really close to me. The absence unnerved me. I hurried back, checking on the couple at Site E, but they'd left. I did walk down to Campsite E to ask the couple that I spoke with the night before how they did with the storm during the night, but they had packed up and left by this time. I was alone again, the forest closing in. The trail's beauty, lighthouse, wooden gate, great hall, felt tainted, each sight a reminder of the island's dark past. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the runner, the squeal, the voices were pieces of a puzzle I wasn't meant to solve. The day's hike only deepened my fear. The voices, the runner, the tracks, they weren't random. Something was here and it was circling closer. Back at camp, I rebuilt my fire, desperate for normalcy. But the forest pulsed with life, its shadows shifting just beyond the flames. I built a fire, made some meals, had a cigar, and had some drinks. As soon as it got dark, though, I was ready for bed since I had so little sleep the night before. So I got in my tent and quickly fell asleep. Exhaustion pulled me under, but it was a mistake. The island was waiting. At 2:30 a.m., a huge boom of thunder snapped me awake. I woke up to a huge boom of thunder. It started downpouring like crazy. The storm was relentless, wind tearing at my tent, the ground trembling. The wind was whipping at my tent, and the ground was shaking from the thunder and the lightning. I love camping in the rain, but I do not like camping in a lightning storm. I checked my stakes, praying they'd hold. The storm lasted for about an hour as well before it became just a sort of light and steady drizzle. As the thunder faded, the squeal noise returned, close, piercing. I was starting to fall back to sleep too when it was then that I heard that squeal noise again. I opened up my eyes wide in the dark and I just laid there silent. There was another loud squeal noise and it was pretty close now. I grabbed my knife, my breath shallow. I say squeal though because that's the best that I can describe it. It sounded to me a lot like a pig squeal, and while I honestly don't know that much about pig noises, that's what I thought of when I heard it. An injured or perhaps angry pig squeal. Then the footsteps, heavy, deliberate, right outside. In any case, I continued to lay in my tent, and that's when I started to hear footsteps outside my tent again. I listened as the footsteps started moving closer. I peered through the tent flap, and there they were. Eyes, glowing like embers, inches from the fabric. They weren't animal eyes, not deer or porcupine. They were wrong, too bright, too knowing, staring through the rain. I felt like there was something in the tent with me, and I could feel that it was angry, seething with anger, rageful even. I could feel its hatred for me. It felt like something very bad was about to happen and I just couldn't do anything about it. I froze, my voice gone, as the eyes held me. I started to shiver uncontrollably, and then there was a smell of like garbage or rotten meat, and it got stronger and stronger to the point where I almost threw up but couldn't because I was just completely frozen. I'd never felt so exposed and helpless apart from that point in my life. I stared forward at nothing, just frozen. And the weird thing is that I accepted that whatever was about to happen to me was just going to happen. Then, darkness. All of a sudden, I just blacked out. At least I have to assume I passed out because that's all I remember until I woke up at about 10 a.m. that morning. When I woke up, I was laying outside of my sleeping bag, on top of it, and my legs were in a really sort of unnatural and uncomfortable position. I was on my back with my left leg straight out, and my right leg was bent so that my foot was up against my left knee. I stumbled out, disoriented, the tracks still there, circling tighter. I packed up everything very quickly and started back, toward the dock to catch the first boat off the island. The forest felt alive, its eyes everywhere. I reached the dock, desperate to escape. Since the first boat from Washington Island doesn't arrive until 10:30 in the morning, I had to kill a little bit of time around the Great Hall and dock area. I wanted to get off that island though, so bad. But I did feel a little better just being out of the woods, I'll admit. I sat down on a bench a little to the east of the dock and lit a cigar, just to give me something to do while trying not to think about the night before. A man approached, startling me. I was startled by someone behind me saying hi. I jumped and was really embarrassed when the person came around saying, Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I saw you smoking and just came over to ask if you had a lighter. We talked, and he mentioned camping in odd places, the East Cemetery, the woods south of the lighthouse. He said that he usually books that site, but I must have reserved it before him. He told me that most of the time he camps in the East Cemetery. but he also likes to camp in the woods south of the lighthouse. He asked about the screeches. He asked me if I heard the screeches in the woods, and at that, I took a second to reply and knew exactly what he was talking about. I nodded, my throat tight. He said, "A demon lives on this island." He just said matter-of-factly, "A demon lives on this island." I saw his face change. He looked as if he was thinking if he should tell me something, almost like a secret. I guess. I admitted I'd seen eyes, nothing more. I told him that I hadn't seen anything, and he stared at me like he was trying to figure something out. I felt like he could tell that I'd experienced something. The man's words were a knife to my gut. A demon? I wanted to dismiss it, but those eyes, that smell, the tracks, they weren't natural. He looked at me and must have seen the anxiety and the fear that I was feeling. He surprised me by letting out a quick laugh and then asked me if I'd saw anything that night. He warned me to avoid the cemetery, mentioning keepers of the flame without context. He told me that he had seen something in the cemetery that night. He actually looked at me with empathy and told me that what he saw was hard to explain. But if I was afraid of the screeching noises, he didn't think that I should go near the cemetery. He said 4 words without any context. Keepers of the flame. I stubbed out my cigar, my hands shaking. I put out my cigar and told him that I was going to wait by the dock for the boat, and he nodded. He looked at me, serious. "Don't come back here, okay?" He just said, "Don't come back here, okay?" I turned around at that and started walking again. I don't know if that was a warning or a friendly suggestion, but whatever it was, I took it to heart. I caught the first ferry, my mind a tangle of fear and questions. I was definitely not going to come back to Rock Island. Back home, I dove into research, desperate for answers. When I did get home, though, I looked up Keepers of the Flame as it pertained to Rock Island. I found 3 things that he could have been referring to. The name of the Native Americans that lived on the island could be translated to Keepers of the Flame, the lighthouse. Keepers on the island were sometimes referred to as Keepers of the Flame. But then there was also a 19th century cult that was said to visit the island from time to time that called themselves the Keepers of the Flame. The cult intrigued me, whispers of rituals in the woods, offerings to spirits tied to the island's burial grounds. Was that what I'd encountered? Or was it older, a guardian of the land, angered by my presence? I contacted Dr. Lena Carter, a historian who'd studied Rock Island's past. She met me at a library, her face grim as I showed her the track photos and described the eyes, the squeal. "This island's a liminal space," she said. "The Potawatomi called it a place where worlds meet." The lighthouse keeper, David Corbin, wrote of visitors in the 1840s. Shadows, voices, things he couldn't name. David E. Corbin was appointed the first keeper of the light on December 19th, 1837. In 1845, after 8 years of relative solitude at the lighthouse, an inspector visited the lighthouse keeper and determined that while Corbin was fulfilling his duties, he was acting strange. The official report says that the inspector ordered Corbin to take a 25-day leave of absence to find a wife to live with him at the lighthouse. She mentioned Chester Thorson, who owned the island in the 1900s, and his occult library. Chester Thorson purchased all of the island except for the land that the lighthouse occupied in the north. He had over 11,000 books, and it's rumored that he possessed some very rare books on the occult in his collection too. Dr. Carter studied the tracks. "These don't match any known animal," she said. "You're lucky. Most who see those eyes don't walk away." Her words were ice in my veins. I'd escaped, but the island's presence lingered. I shared my story with a hiking group seeking clarity. A native elder, Mr. Whitefeather, listened quietly. "You crossed a guardian," he said. "The land protects itself. You weren't meant to be there." He suggested an offering, sage, tobacco, to make amends. I followed his advice, scattering them in my backyard, whispering apologies. The nightmares eased, but the eyes still haunted my sleep. Dug deeper, finding old journals in the Wisconsin Historical Society. Thorson's personal papers are housed in the archive section of the State Historical Society of Wisconsin. A 1876 lighthouse log mentioned 2 men lost in a storm, their boat later seen with frozen figures drifting. On January 20th, 1976, the keeper at the time, named Betts, reported that he saw 2 men attempting to row to the mainland from Washington Island. Over 3 months later, on May 3rd of 1876, Betts wrote that the 2 men were lost last January, have since been seen several times. The men are apparently frozen stiff and sitting upright in the boat among a mass of ice. The log chilled me. Were the eyes I saw tied to those men, or something older, tied to the Potawatomi's sacred grounds? The island's history was a tapestry: loss, native displacement, settler tragedies, occult whispers. I'd stumbled into a place where the veil was thin, where the past and present collided. The runner, the squeal, the eyes, they were warnings, or maybe invitations. I didn't want to find out which. Rock Island is a memory, but its lessons are etched in me. I know that hundreds of people visit Rock Island every year, and they have a great time camping, hiking the trails, and exploring Chester Thorson's buildings. But my humble suggestion is this: do not go to Rock Island. I'm 30 now, a graphic designer in Minneapolis, far from those cursed woods. I still hike, but I'm careful, always checking the history of a place before I go. I still feel the trauma from that night, not as fear, but as a quiet strength. I'll never forget those eyes, that squeal, that night. They taught me to listen when the world feels wrong, to trust the prickle on my neck, the knot in my gut. I'm doing better now, living with my partner Jess and our dog Riley. I've shared my story, and they believe me. Not because they've seen spirits, but because they see the resilience it forged. I had no other experiences since then, and I'm grateful. I keep my journal, the photos, a testament to what I survived. The tracks, the eyes, the squeal. They're part of me, a reminder that some places hold power we can't comprehend. I don't camp alone anymore, but I'm not afraid. I'm vigilant, attuned to the signs, the rustle, the shadow, the silence that's too deep. The island changed how I move through the world. I research every trail, every campsite, digging into local lore, talking to elders, historians, anyone who knows the land. I carry sage just in case, and I never ignore a strange sound. The Potawatomi believed in balance, respect the land, and it respects you. I didn't know that then, but I do now. My offering, my apology, was a step toward peace, but I'll never step on that island again. To anyone planning a remote adventure, know the land, read its history, listen to its stories, respect its boundaries, document everything, sounds, sights, feelings. If you hear a squeal, see eyes that glow, feel a presence that doesn't belong, don't wait. Leave. Your instincts are your guide, sharper than any knife, stronger than any storm. I still think about that night, those eyes, and I wonder if they're still out there watching. But I'm here, alive, stronger for it. Rock Island was a warning, a lesson, a crucible. I emerged not broken, but forged, ready for whatever lies beyond the light. I froze. My breath caught in my throat as a sickening sound slithered through my window, a rhythm that didn't belong in the night. My name's Sophie, and a man who'd been stalking me for weeks stood right outside my apartment, his shadow, twisting under the streetlight. I saw him through the blinds, his hand moving in a grotesque, deliberate act, his eyes locked on me, unblinking, unrelenting. That moment shattered me, a violation that turned my home into a trap. The fear is a wound, raw and bleeding, that I carry every day. He vanished before the police could catch him, leaving only a smudged handprint on my gate and a scream I couldn't. Silence. I'm not imagining this. He's real, and his act haunts me. A reminder he's still out there watching. I'm fighting to reclaim my life, but this is no ordinary nightmare. Stay with me, because what I uncovered about him will make you rethink safety. I was 24, living in a cozy Chicago apartment, a place I'd filled with books and dreams of a new start. It began with shadows, him lingering across the street, his hoodie hiding his face, always there when I left for the coffee shop or returned from late shifts. He'd follow me, his steps a faint echo, close enough to make my heart race, but far enough to seem coincidental. I told myself it was nothing, just urban paranoia, until he got closer, standing outside my building at night, his silhouette a dark smear against the city's glow. I bought a security camera hoping to catch him, but he was cunning, dodging the lens like he knew my every move. That first night was a wound. I was watching TV, the city's hum a soft backdrop, when I heard it, a low, repulsive rhythm, like a heartbeat gone wrong. I peeked through the blinds and there he was at my gate, his hand moving in a disgusting display, his eyes piercing the glass, a smirk curling his lips. I screamed, my remote clattering to the floor, fumbling for my phone as I dialed 911. He was gone before the cops arrived, leaving that handprint a mark of his intrusion. They took my statement, but their shrug said it all. No evidence, no crime, just a scared girl. I couldn't unsee it, the way his eyes held mine, the way his act defiled my home. I added a second camera, a better lock, kept a taser by my bed. But the fear was a living thing, coiling in my gut. My friend Daniel, who lived nearby, urged me to leave. But this was my home, my stand. I had to know who he was, why he chose me before he came back. His violation a promise of more. This isn't just a story of fear. It's about what happens when your sanctuary becomes a predator's stage. He was a specter, haunting my every step. The man kept stalking me, his presence a poison seeping into my life. Night after night, he'd stand outside my gate, his silhouette a mockery of safety. I'd catch him on my cameras, his hand moving in that vile act, his eyes glinting with a hunger that made my skin crawl. The fear was a blade, slicing through my peace, turning my apartment into a prison I couldn't trust. I couldn't erase. The image, the way his smirk taunted me, the way his act stained my sanctuary. He wasn't just a creep, he was a predator feeding on my terror. His visits became a ritual. He'd appear after midnight, when Chicago's streets fell silent, his hoodie blending into the shadows. My cameras recorded him, pacing, touching the gate, sometimes pressing his face close, his breath fogging the glass as he repeated his disgusting act. I'd watch the footage, my heart pounding, my stomach churning, knowing he'd been there while I slept. The police were useless, taking my reports but doing nothing, saying without a clear crime, they couldn't act. I felt like I was screaming into a void, my terror dismissed as overreaction. Daniel reinforced my locks, checked on me daily, but he couldn't stay all night. I was alone, and he knew it. His eyes a constant reminder of my vulnerability. I stopped going out after dark, ordered groceries online, kept my blinds shut. My boss noticed my distraction, my hands shaking as I poured coffee. The fear was a poison, making me jump at every creak, every shadow. Daniel begged me to move, but leaving felt like surrender. The memory of his act replayed in my nightmares, his handprint growing larger in my mind. I found a cigarette butt. By the gate, his brand, and a scratch on my door, deliberate like a mark. Each was a taunt, a violation as real as his presence. One night, a note slid under my door. "You're mine." His handwriting was a wound, cutting deeper than I could bear. I kept it, my evidence piling up, but the police just nodded, offering nothing. I was breaking, my sleep fractured, but I wasn't done. I started logging his visits, studying his patterns, determined to end this before he took more than my peace. Wasn't his victim. I was his pursuer. The stalker's shadow was everywhere, a constant threat in my camera's feed. He kept appearing at my gate, his silhouette a curse I couldn't escape. My cameras caught him, his hand moving in that repulsive act, his eyes boring into me, unapologetic. The fear was a storm, but I turned it into resolve, determined to unmask him. The police dismissed my evidence, calling it insufficient, so I became my own investigator, upgrading my cameras, scouring Chicago's streets for clues. Daniel dug through online crime logs, but I was the one obsessed, chasing the cigarette butts, the note's jagged lines, The handprint's ghost. A neighbor, Mrs. Vargas, gave me a lead. Saw a guy like that by the old factory on Halstead. She whispered, her voice uneasy. The factory was a block away, a crumbling relic littered with debris. I went at dawn, camera hidden, pulse racing. The ground was strewn with his cigarette, butts, his brand, and I found a backpack, tucked behind a crate containing a photo. A woman, not me. Her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. My gut twisted, the connection hitting like a blow. Was she his victim? I pocketed the photo, noticing a key, small, with a snake engraving left like a challenge. It was his, a piece of his world I could use. I showed the photo to Daniel, who recognized her. That's Claire from the diner, went missing last year. We found her case online. Last seen near my street, no leads. The fear surged, but I pushed forward, taking the photo to the police. They were skeptical, saying the factory was a vagrant spot, the photo not enough for a search. I wanted to scream. He was a predator, and they were blind. Back home, another note appeared under my door. You're too curious. His handwriting was a stab, proof he knew I was closing in. The police offered nothing, but I kept the note, my evidence. Growing, I staked out the factory, watching from a parked car, noting his visits. Late, alone, slipping into the dark. I was terrified, but I couldn't stop. Not with Claire's face, my face, haunting me. He'd violated my home, but I was violating his secrets, and I was close to breaking him open. The note, "You're too curious," was his challenge, and I met it head on. The stalker wouldn't stop, his shadow a blight on my cameras. He stood at my gate, his act a wound I couldn't heal, his eyes taunting me through the lens. The fear was a fire, but I was done hiding. I went back to the factory, driven by Claire's face, by every woman he'd hunted. It was midnight, Chicago's streets silent, my camera rolling. The factory loomed, its walls scarred with graffiti, a snake symbol etched near a side door. My hands trembled as I pushed it open, the air thick with decay, revealing a room that reeked of desperation. Photos plastered the walls, women, dozens, some crossed out, Claire's face among them, mine circled in red. My heart stopped. His violation now a gallery of terror. A ledger lay open, listing names, addresses, routines, mine included. Leaves at 7 a.m., alone. I photographed it, my hands shaking, but then I heard him, boots scraping, his breath heavy. He was there in the doorway, his silhouette massive, his hand moving in that sickening rhythm, his smirk wide. "You're brave," he rasped, stepping closer, a knife glinting. I screamed, the fear a roar, throwing a brick at him, and ran, the ledger clutched tight, my lungs burning. He chased, his footsteps thundering, but I weaved through the factory, out into the streets, not stopping until I reached Daniel's apartment. I collapsed, showing him the ledger, the photos, my name in his script. We went to the police, my voice raw, blood from a cut on my hand. They raided the factory, but he was gone. The photos vanished, only my blood on the floor. They called it a squatter's den, but I saw their unease. He was real, and he'd outsmarted them. The fear was a scream, but I held the ledger, proof he existed. I moved to Daniel's, my apartment too exposed. The police opened a case, but found nothing. His trail cold. Claire's face, my face. They haunted me. His act a shadow I couldn't shake. He knew I'd fought back, knew I was close. And his eyes felt nearer, a promise he wasn't done. I'm still breathing, but I'm not whole. The stalker's presence lingers, a specter in my mind. His act at my gate is a scar, raw and bleeding. The fear is my prison, locking me in even now, months later. I'm at Daniel's, my apartment, a place I can't face. The police found nothing. Their case stalled, the ledger not enough to catch him. I'm safe, but it's a lie, a fragile shield against the truth. He's out there, watching. Claire's face, my face, they haunt me. A litany of his victims, some gone, some like me, still running. His eyes, his act, they're etched into me, a violation I can't erase. I kept fighting, joining victim forums, sharing the ledgers. Names. A woman, Rachel, recognized the snake key. linking it to a stalking case in Milwaukee. A man who'd vanished after targeting her cousin, Emily, now missing. She sent a photo, blurry but him, his smirk, his scar. My heart sank. The fear, a tidal wave, but I sent it to the police, to private investigators, anyone who'd listen. They're still empty-handed, calling him a phantom. I'm not waiting. I've posted warnings, connected with victims, building a case against him. Last week, a package arrived. No postmark, just my name and his jagged script. Inside was a key like the one from the factory and a note. I'm not done. My breath stopped, the fear a scream in my chest. Daniel checked his cameras. Nothing, like he'd erased himself. I called the police, but they dismissed it, saying no direct threat. He'd found me, marked me again. His act a shadow I couldn't escape. I moved again, changed my phone, but the fear stays. His eyes in every shadow, his handprint on my soul. I've changed my life, but the memory of his act poisons me. Daniel thinks I'm safe, but the ledger's names scream otherwise. Women who didn't escape. I keep it, the key, the photo, locked away. My weapons against a predator. I'm not just fighting for me, I'm fighting for them, and I won't stop even if it breaks me. This isn't just my story, it's a warning. There are predators like him, lurking, claiming you when you think you're safe. Trust your fear, your locks, your fight. If a sound chills you, if a shadow feels wrong, don't wait. Run, dig, survive, because they don't stop. I don't know if he's near, if he'll find me, but I'm not waiting for his next act. If you hear about a woman chasing a shadow, fighting a ghost, that's me. Or what's left of me. I still wonder, where is he and who's next? The ambulance siren wails, cutting through the night as I'm rushed to the ER. I'm Jenna, a college sophomore, and hours ago, I was laughing with friends. Now I'm unconscious, my body a mystery, suspected of surviving something unspeakable. Paramedics hover, their voices urgent as I'm wheeled into a hospital. My friends' faces pale with fear. They found me collapsed, unresponsive, and now doctors are racing to uncover what happened. This isn't just a medical emergency. It's a story of survival, of questions that burn in the dark. By the end, I'd face a truth that changed me forever. Stay with me, because this will grip your heart and make you question the safety of a single night out. It was a Friday night in Austin, Texas, the kind of warm September evening that begged for a good time. I'm Jenna, a 20-year-old sophomore at UT, living for moments with my friends after a week of exams. We'd gone out, a group of us, to a downtown bar, laughing and dancing under neon lights. The place was packed, music pulsing, drinks flowing. My best friend Chloe was there, along with Tara, a classmate, and Nate, Tara's boyfriend, who always had a joke to lighten the mood. We were carefree, young, invincible, or so we thought. The bar was a blur of faces, some familiar, some not. I sipped my drink, a vodka soda, feeling the buzz but still in control. Around midnight, I started feeling off, dizzy, my vision blurring, my legs heavy. I told Chloe I needed air, stepping outside to the patio. The cool night, a relief. That's the last thing I remember clearly. Standing there, the city lights spinning, then nothing. My friends found me collapsed on the patio, unresponsive. My pulse faint. Panic set in. Chloe called 911, her voice shaking as she begged for help. The ambulance ride was a void, but Chloe later filled in the gaps. Paramedics arrived in minutes, their lights flashing, the crowd parting as they loaded me onto a stretcher. Nate held Tara, who was crying, while Chloe rode with me, clutching my hand, whispering, "You're gonna be okay, Jenna." The hospital was a whirlwind of activity. Nurses, doctors' machines beeping. I was rushed to the ER, suspected of surviving something unspeakable. My body a puzzle they needed to solve. Austin's nightlife was no stranger to stories like this. Chloe had read about drink spiking, about women waking up with gaps in their memory, their bodies violated. The thought made her sick, but she pushed it aside, focusing on me. The bar's security footage was blurry, showing me laughing, then stumbling, but no clear suspect. Nate checked his phone, pulling up a news article. About a string of incidents downtown. Unexplained collapses, suspected assaults, few answers. The city felt different now, its vibrancy tainted by danger. As I lay in the ER, my friends waited, their fear a heavy weight. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed, the air sterile but tense. I was still out, my body fighting to wake, my mind trapped in darkness. The night had started with laughter, but it ended here, in a place of questions and dread, with my friends praying I'd come back to them. What had happened to me? The answer was coming, and it would change everything. The ER at St. David's Medical Center was a blur of controlled chaos. I was still unconscious, my body hooked to monitors, IV lines dripping fluids to stabilize me. Doctors worked fast, suspecting I'd been assaulted, ordering urgent tests to uncover the truth. Nurses drew blood, their faces calm but focused, while a trauma specialist prepared for a forensic exam, a process Chloe later described with a shudder. My condition was critical, unresponsive, my vitals weak, my friends praying I'd wake. The hospital's antiseptic smell mingled with fear, the beeping machines a constant reminder of my fragile state. Chloe sat in the waiting room, her hands clasped, her eyes red from crying. Tara paced, her phone buzzing with texts from classmates, asking if I was okay. Nate stared at the floor, replaying the night, wondering if he'd missed something, a stranger too close, a drink left unattended. The doctors were thorough, running toxicology screens, checking for signs of trauma, their questions urgent. Had I been drinking heavily? Any history of seizures? Chloe answered as best she could, her voice shaky, insisting I'd only had one, drink. The trauma team worked discreetly, following protocol for suspected assault. They collected samples, examined my clothes, and documented every detail, their movements precise but gentle. A nurse, Maria, stayed close, her voice soft as she spoke to Chloe. "We're doing everything we can for her," she said. But the words felt hollow. The possibility of assault hung heavy, a shadow no one wanted to name. Tara pulled up an X post about drink spiking in Austin, her hands trembling. "It's happening too often," she said, her voice breaking. Nate nodded, his jaw tight, guilt gnawing at him for not watching closer. My memory was a black hole, but fragments flickered. Laughter, music, then a sudden weight like my body was sinking. I didn't know it yet, but those fragments were clues, pieces of a night that had spiraled out of control. In the ER, the toxicology screen came back showing traces of a sedative, not alcohol, in my system. The doctor, Dr. Patel, pulled Chloe aside, her face grave. "It's consistent with drug-facilitated assault," she said, her voice low. "We're running more tests, but she's stable for now." Chloe's heart sank, the words confirming her worst fears. The waiting room was a pressure cooker of emotions. Chloe called my parents, her voice cracking as she explained, promising to stay until they arrived from Dallas. Tara contacted campus security, demanding they check the bar's footage again. Nate scoured his phone, finding a blurry photo from the night. A stranger near me, his face half hidden. "Could it be him?" he asked, showing Chloe. She shook her head, unsure, but forwarded it to the police, her hands trembling. The hospital's social worker, Lisa, joined them, offering resources for assault survivors, her presence a quiet anchor in the storm. I stirred briefly, my eyes fluttering, but I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The sedative's grip was fading, but my body felt foreign, heavy with a truth I wasn't ready to face. Nurse Maria adjusted my IV, her touch gentle, whispering, "You're safe now, Jenna." Safe, but not whole, not yet. The forensic exam continued, the team meticulous, searching for evidence to piece together the night. Chloe overheard a nurse mention bruising on my arms, faint but suspicious, and her stomach churned, anger mixing with grief. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed, a stark contrast to the bar's neon glow. My friends clung to hope, but fear was a constant companion. Chloe checked her phone, finding messages from our sorority sisters, offering support but asking questions no one could answer. Tara posted on X, a vague plea for information about the bar, her words careful but desperate. Nate called his cousin, a cop, begging for updates on the investigation. The night stretched on, each minute a battle between hope and dread, my friends. United in their fight for me, my body was a crime scene, a puzzle the doctors were solving, but my mind was elsewhere, lost in the dark. The sedative's haze lifted slowly, and with it came flashes, someone's hand on my arm, a voice I didn't know, the world tilting. I didn't know what it meant, but the hospital was my lifeline, its staff my shield. My friends were my anchor, their presence a promise that I wasn't alone, even as the truth loomed, waiting to break me. Dawn broke over Austin, the hospital's sterile halls bathed in gray light. I woke slowly, my head pounding, my body aching, the world a fog. I was in the ER, tubes in my arms, doctors checking my vitals, their faces a mix of relief and concern. My parents were there, their eyes red, holding my hands as I blinked against the light. Chloe stood by the door, her face a mask of worry and hope. Tara and Nate beside her, their exhaustion palpable. The truth was coming, and it was heavy. A weight I wasn't ready to carry. Dr. Patel sat me down, her voice steady but kind. The tests confirmed it. A sedative likely slipped into my drink had caused my collapse. The forensic exam found bruising, but no definitive evidence of assault, a gray area that left more questions than answers. We're treating this as a possible drug-facilitated assault, she said, her words careful. You're safe now, and we're here to support you. Safe. But the word felt hollow, my mind racing with what I couldn't remember. Chloe hugged me, tears streaming, whispering, "You're back, Jenna. You're back." My parents clung to me, their fear a mirror of my own. Tara handed me water, her hands shaking, while Nate mumbled apologies, blaming himself for not watching closer. I wanted to comfort them, but I was drowning, the sedative's haze lifting to reveal a truth I couldn't grasp. Had I been assaulted? The bruising, the drug, clues but not proof. A void where memory should be. The social worker, Lisa, guided us through next steps. Counseling, support groups, police reports. "You're not alone," she said, her voice a lifeline. I nodded. But the weight of the unknown was crushing. The police arrived, taking my statement. Though my words were fragmented, my memory a patchwork of light and shadow. They reviewed the bar's footage, Nate's photo. But the stranger's face was unclear. A ghost in the crowd. "We're investigating," the officer said, but his tone held little promise. My parents took me home, a quiet apartment now filled with tension. Chloe stayed, sleeping on the couch, her presence a comfort. Tara and Nate visited daily, bringing food, sharing updates from the police. Nothing concrete, but they kept searching. I started therapy, a slow process to unpack the trauma, the fear, the gaps. My therapist, Dr. Ellis, helped me name the feelings: anger, shame, hope, teaching me to breathe through the panic, to reclaim my body, my mind. The campus rallied around me, friends organizing safety workshops, posting flyers about drink spiking. Chloe spoke at a rally, her voice fierce, demanding change. "This isn't just Jenna's story," she said. "It's too many of us." Her words echoed on X, shared thousands of times. A call to action. I watched from home, my heart swelling, knowing I wasn't just a victim, I was part of something bigger. My recovery was a battle, but I was fighting, surrounded by love, by strength. The police investigation stalled. The stranger never found, but I found my own truth. Survival. I remembered flashes, a hand, a voice, but they didn't define me. My friends, my family, my will. They did. The hospital had saved me, but my journey was just beginning. A path to healing I'd walk with courage. I wasn't whole, not yet, but I was alive, and that was enough. Months later, I'm still healing, but I'm not the Jenna who collapsed that night. The hospital saved my body, but my friends, my family, saved my soul. The gaps in my memory remain, a scar I carry, but they don't own me. I was a victim, but I'm a survivor, rebuilding with every step. Therapy helps me face the fear, the anger, the hope, teaching me to trust again, to live again. Chloe, Tara, and Nate are my rocks. Their support a reminder that love outshines darkness. The campus is safer now with new policies, more cameras, thanks to our fight. I've shared my story anonymously on X, connecting with others who've survived, their strength fueling mine. The truth of that night is still a shadow, but I've found my light, my strength, my voice. If you're out there feeling broken, know this, you're not alone. Reach out, fight on, because you are enough. I'm Ellie, and my family's old house in Savannah holds secrets passed down through generations. One night, I saw it. A shadow, blacker than night, moving through the walls, gone in a blink. It wasn't human, wasn't animal, a shape that chilled my blood. My mother and grandmother knew it too, their stories echoing mine. A legacy of fear. This thing, this shadow, has haunted us for decades, appearing, vanishing, always watching. This isn't just a ghost story. It's a family curse, a truth buried in our home's bones. By the end, I'd uncover what it wanted, and it changed me forever. Stay with me, because this will make you question the shadows in your own home. Savannah, Georgia, 2025. Our family's Victorian house stood on a quiet street. Its wraparound porch and stained glass windows a relic of a bygone era. I'm Ellie, a 28-year-old writer, living in the home my great-grandmother built in 1890. It was my sanctuary, but also a place of secrets. Its walls holding stories my mother and grandmother whispered. The house creaked with age, its oak floors worn smooth, but there was a weight to it, a presence that lingered in the shadows. I'd moved back after college, drawn to the house's history, its connection to my family. My mother Diane lived nearby, her visits filled with tales of her childhood here. She'd seen things, shadows that moved, shapes that vanished, stories I'd dismissed as kid fears. My grandmother, Clara, now in a nursing home, had told similar tales, her eyes distant, her voice low. "It's always been here," she'd say, never explaining. The house was beautiful but eerie, its high ceilings and narrow halls amplifying every sound. At night, the wind rattled the windows, and the shadows seemed to shift as if alive. I'd laugh it off, blaming an overactive imagination. But the story stuck, a thread connecting me to Diane and Clara. Their experiences mirrored something I couldn't name, a legacy of unease passed down through generations. One evening, I found an old journal in the attic, Clara's handwriting faded but clear. It described the house's early years, built on land once used for rituals by the Gulagichi, a community with deep spiritual roots. Clara wrote of dark things in the walls, of shadows that watched her sleep. Diane had read it too, her own memories of childhood fears sparked by those pages. I closed the journal, my skin prickling, the house's silence suddenly too loud. Loved the house, but it felt alive, its creaks and groans a language I didn't speak. I'd sit in the parlor writing, but my eyes would drift to the corners expecting movement. The air was heavy, charged, as if the house was waiting. I told myself it was just old wood settling, but deep down, I knew. Something was here. Something my mother and grandmother had faced, and now it was my turn to meet it. The house was silent, the kind of quiet that presses against your ears, heavy with secrets. I was in the parlor, writing by lamplight. When it happened, a shadow moved, not cast by any light, but alive, blacker than the night outside. It wasn't human, wasn't animal. A shape that slithered across the wall, its edges blurring, then vanished into the air. My heart slammed against my chest, the pen falling from my hand. I froze, staring at the spot where it disappeared. My breath caught in my throat. The room was still, but the air was charged, like a storm about to break. I grabbed my phone, its flashlight shaking as I swept the room. Nothing, just the familiar furniture, the creaking floors, the portraits of my ancestors watching from the walls. But I wasn't alone. I felt it, a presence cold and heavy, lingering where the shadow had been. My mother and grandmother had seen it too, their stories now my reality, a legacy I couldn't escape. I called Diane, my voice trembling. "Mom, it's here. I saw it." Diane arrived within the hour, her face pale, her eyes haunted. "Tell me exactly what you saw," she said, her voice low, as if afraid to wake something. I described the shadow, its fluid shape, its sudden disappearance, the chill it left behind. She nodded, her hands clasped tight. "I saw it when I was your age," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "A black shape moving through the hall, gone before I could scream. Grandma Clara saw it too when she was young. Their stories were identical. Shadows that defied light, vanishing without trace, always watching. We sat in the kitchen, the house's silence oppressive, its walls seeming to lean in. Diane pulled out Clara's journal, its pages brittle, and read aloud. It came at night, a shadow darker than dark, moving through the walls. It watched me, wanted something, then was gone. Clara's fear was palpable, her words a mirror to my own. Diane's eyes met mine, her voice steady but strained. "It's always been here, Ellie. We don't know what it is, but it's tied to this house, to us." I tried to stay rational, to find an explanation. Bad wiring, a trick of the light, but the shadow was real, its presence undeniable. The house felt different now, its warmth gone, replaced by a cold that seeped into my bones. I checked the parlor again, my flashlight catching every corner, but the shadow was gone, leaving only a faint hum in the air like a distant voice. Diane stayed close, her hand on my arm, her fear a mirror of my own. The next day, I visited Clara at the nursing home, her eyes sharp despite her frailty. "You saw it, didn't you?" she said, her voice a rasp. I nodded, describing the shadow, its movement, its chill. She closed her eyes, whispering, "It's the same. It came for me, for your mother, now you." Clara's story was vivid. She'd seen the shadow in the attic, a fluid shape that pulsed, vanishing when she screamed. "It wants something," she said, her hands trembling. "It always has." I dug deeper, searching the house for clues. In the attic, I found a box of old letters written by my great-grandmother, Eliza, who'd built the house. She mentioned dark spirits tied to the land, angered by its sale to settlers. The Gullah Geechee had warned her, but she'd ignored them, building on sacred ground. The shadow, she wrote, was a guardian, a curse, watching her family, never leaving. My heart raced. The shadow wasn't just a ghost, it was a legacy, a debt we hadn't paid. The house's history weighed heavy. Savannah was steeped in stories of spirits, of homes built on unrestful ground. I called a local historian, Dr. Mays, who confirmed the land's past, a Gullah Geechee ritual site, disrupted by development. "Some spirits don't leave," he said. "They watch, they wait." His words echoed Clara's, Diane's, my. "Don't fear," tying us to a truth older than the house itself. The shadow had marked us, a family bound by its gaze, its purpose unclear. I couldn't sleep, my eyes darting to the walls, expecting it to return. Diane stayed over, her presence a comfort. But the house was alive, its creaks a warning, its shadows a threat. I knew then this wasn't just a sighting, it was a reckoning, and the shadow was far from done. The house was a cage, its walls closing in as the shadow grew bolder. The shadow was everywhere now, a black shape slithering through the halls, its presence heavier, its gaze unrelenting. I'd see it at night, moving across the ceiling, its edges pulsing, vanishing when I turned on the light. It didn't stay gone. It returned, closer each time, watching me from the corners. A silent threat. My heart pounded. Sleep a distant memory. The house's creaks a chorus of dread. Diane stayed close, her fear mirroring mine, but we couldn't leave. Not yet. The shadow was part of us, and we had to face it. We searched the house, desperate, for answers. In the basement I found a hidden door, its wood warped, its hinges rusted. Diane hesitated, her eyes wide. "Grandma never went down there," she said, her voice trembling. I pushed it open, the air cold and thick, smelling of earth and something sharper, metallic. The basement was a maze of crates and cobwebs, but The walls were etched with symbols, spirals, eyes carved deep, glowing faintly in the dark. My skin crawled, the shadow's presence stronger here, its hum vibrating in my chest. Diane clutched Clara's journal, reading by flashlight. She wrote about this place, she said, her voice shaking. A ritual, something the Gullah Geechee left behind, tied to the land. The journal described a guardian spirit, bound to the house, watching the family, demanding respect. Eliza had ignored it, building over sacred ground, and the shadow had stayed, a curse on her line. My mother's fear, my grandmother's stories, they were warnings, echoes of a debt we hadn't paid. The shadow appeared then, a fluid mass pooling on the floor, its shape shifting, human, then not, its edges clawing at the air. I screamed, dropping my flashlight, but Diane grabbed my arm, pulling me back. "It's here!" she shouted, her voice raw. The shadow pulsed, its hum deafening, its form growing, filling the basement. We ran, the door slamming behind us, but the hum followed, the shadow seeping through the cracks, its presence a weight on our souls. Upstairs, the house shook, windows rattling, the air thick with that metallic scent. The shadow was in every room now, slithering across the walls, its form clearer, eyes too many staring, mouths open in silent screams. I grabbed Diane, my voice steady despite the terror. "We have to end this." She nodded, her eyes fierce, and we called Dr. Mays, who arrived with a Gullah Geechee elder, Miss Ruth, her presence calm but commanding. Miss Ruth walked the house, her hands tracing the walls, her voice low, chanting in a language I didn't know. "This spirit's angry," she said, her eyes sharp. "Your family took its land, broke its peace. It wants acknowledgement." She led us to the basement, the shadow waiting, its form massive, its eyes blazing. Miss Ruth burned sage, her chants rising, the air crackling with energy. The shadow writhed, its hum a scream, then shrank, its form collapsing, vanishing into the walls. The house stilled, the air lighter, but the shadow's echo lingered. Miss Ruth turned to us, her voice firm. "Honor the land, honor your debt, or it'll return." We nodded, shaken, the weight of our family's past heavy. The shadow was gone, but its mark remained, a reminder of what we'd faced. I couldn't stay, not yet, but I'd return to face the house, to honor its truth. Months later, I'm still haunted by the shadow, its eyes burned into my memory. The house is quiet now, but its secrets linger, a legacy my mother and grandmother carried. Diane and I honor the land, planting offerings, learning Gullah Geechee traditions to keep the peace. Clara's gone, but her stories live in us, a bridge to our past. The shadow watched us, judged us, and we faced it, a family bound by its gaze. I've moved out, but I'll return, to tend the house, to respect its truth. Savannah's history holds us, its spirit's a reminder of debts unpaid. I share our story, quietly, with those who listen, connecting to others whose homes whisper. The shadow's mark is my strength, my family's bond, a warning to honor what came before. If your house creaks, if shadows move, listen. They're speaking and they never forget. I slide my hand under the sofa, searching for a dropped pen, and my fingers brush against something cold, leather, like a man's shoe. My heart stops. I'm alone in Evelyn's house, tasked with watching it for a few days. But this shoe doesn't belong here. No one's been home since she left, or so she said. Evelyn handed me the keys, asking me to water the plants and check the house, but warned, "Don't go into the study on the second floor." I pulled the shoe out, worn and scuffed, its laces frayed, and a chill runs down my spine. The moment I stepped into this house, a heavy unease settled over me, like someone was watching, though the rooms were empty. Who left this? And are they still here? I'm Nora, 26, and I agreed to house sit for Evelyn, a family friend while she's on a wellness retreat. The house is old, its Victorian bones creaking under faded wallpaper, the air thick with dust and something sour. I tried to shake off the feeling, focusing on my tasks, but the unease clung, a whisper I couldn't ignore. The living room is cluttered with antiques, Photos of Evelyn with strangers, their eyes sharp in sepia tones. I water the plants, their leaves drooping despite my care, and check the windows, all locked. But the shoe, size 10, heavy, real, changes everything. I set it on the coffee table, my pulse racing. Evelyn lives alone, no husband, no sons. I text her, keeping it casual. Found a shoe under the sofa. Yours? Her reply is quick, vague. Don't worry about it, just keep the plants alive. My stomach twists, that's not an answer. I pace the room, the floorboards groaning, and notice a smudge on the carpet like a footprint, fresh. My skin prickles. I'm not imagining this. Someone's been here, maybe still is. The house feels alive, its shadows shifting, its silence mocking me. I climb the stairs, each step creaking, drawn to the second floor despite Evelyn's warning. I hear faint footsteps above, though I know I'm alone. My breath catches. I check the hallway, finding the study door ajar, though Evelyn said to stay out. I freeze, my hand hovering over the knob. The air grows colder, heavier, like it's pushing me back. I don't open it, not yet, but the footsteps echo again, slow, deliberate from inside the study. My heart hammers. I back away, clutching. My phone ready to call for help, but who? The police? Evelyn? I'm alone and the house knows it. I retreat to the living room, the shoe staring at me, a taunt. I check the doors again, finding a window slightly open, its latch loose. Did I miss it before, or did someone tamper with it? The photos on the mantel catch my eye. One shows Evelyn with a man, his face stern, his eyes piercing like they see me. I need answers, but the house is a puzzle. Its secrets locked in that study, in that shoe, in the shadows watching me. Is someone here, or am I losing my mind? And what's waiting behind that door? I stand in the living room, the man's. Chew a silent accusation on the coffee table. The house creaks, its old bones whispering secrets I can't decipher. My phone buzzes. Evelyn again, texting. Just focus on the plants, Nora. Everything's fine. Her words feel hollow, like she's hiding something. The unease grows, a weight pressing on my chest, as if the walls are watching me. I try to shake it, checking the plants again, but the leaves feel waxy, unnatural, like they're part of the house's deception. The photo of Evelyn and the stern man glares from the mantel, his eyes following me, a mirror of the figure in my dream. Last night, I stayed over despite my instincts and dreamed of a man standing in the corner, staring, his eyes cold and unblinking. I woke to find the bedroom door open, though I'd locked it. My heart races, the memory sharp. I checked the house, finding nothing, but in the living room I saw it. A photo of Evelyn with a man, his eyes matching my dreams. I shake my head trying to focus, but the house feels wrong. Its air thick, its shadows too deep. I grab a flashlight, determined to check the study. Evelyn's warning be damned. The stairs groan under my weight, each step amplifying my dread. The hallway is dim, the study door still ajar, a sliver of darkness peeking through. I push it open, the hinges creaking, revealing a cluttered room. Books, papers, a dusty desk. My flashlight sweeps the space, catching a glint under the desk. A key, old and tarnished. I pick it up, my fingers trembling, and notice a locked drawer. Against my better judgment, I try the key. It fits, the lock clicking open. Inside, I find a notebook, its pages yellowed, filled with names, dates, and cryptic notes. Left town, 1998. Never returned. My blood runs cold. Who wrote this? And why is it hidden? A floorboard creaks behind me and I spin, the flashlight beam slicing the dark. Nothing's there, but the air shifts, colder, heavier. I shove the notebook into my bag, my pulse hammering, and back out, closing the door. Downstairs, I notice a mirror in the hallway, its surface smudged like a handprint, fresh. My skin crawls, I didn't touch it. I check the sofa again, finding a second shoe, identical to the first, tucked deeper. 2 shoes, no owner. My breath catches. Someone's been here, moving things, watching me. I call my friend Sarah, my voice shaking. This house is wrong, I say, describing the shoes, the notebook, the handprint. Get out, she urges. Don't stay another night. I want to, but I'm trapped by obligation, by Evelyn's trust. The house groans, a low hum vibrating through the walls like it's alive. I grab my keys, ready to leave, but the front door sticks, the lock jamming. Panic rises. Is it broken or is someone holding it shut? The notebook burns in my bag, its secrets a weight I can't shake. What's in this house and why does it want me here? The front door finally gives, creaking open to reveal the quiet street, but I don't feel safe. The notebook in my bag feels like a bomb, its cryptic entries, names, dates, disappearances, burning in my mind. I lock the door, my hands shaking, and drive to a cafe, needing people, noise, anything to drown the house's oppressive silence. I open the notebook, scanning the pages. Some names have addresses, local, others crossed out with gone. One entry catches my eye. Mark, 1995, never left. The man in the photo. My heart races. Was he a tenant, a friend, or something darker? I need answers, but Evelyn's silence and the house's secrets haunt me. I call Sarah again, reading. Here are the entries. That's creepy, she says. Ask the neighbors. I hesitate, but she's right. I return to the house, parking a block away, and knock on the next-door neighbor's door. Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman, answers, her eyes narrowing. You're watching Evelyn's place? She asks. I nod, mentioning the shoes, the notebook. Her face tightens. That house. People come and go. A man lived there years ago, Mark, vanished. Evelyn never talks about it. My stomach drops. Mark, the name from the notebook, the man in the photo. Mrs. Carter lowers her voice. I've seen lights upstairs at night even when Evelyn's gone. Be careful. Her words chill me. I thank her, my mind reeling, and head back to the house, needing to confront its secrets. Inside, the air feels heavier, the shadows deeper. I climb to the study, the notebook guiding me. I search the desk, finding a locked box under papers. The key from the drawer fits, revealing photos, dozens, all men. Some with notes like the notebooks. One photo shows Mark, younger, smiling, but his eyes are cold, familiar. My skin crawls. Who was he to Evelyn? And why are these hidden? A thud echoes from downstairs, sharp, like something falling. I freeze, the flashlight trembling in my hand. I hear footsteps again, slow, deliberate, from the living room. My pulse hammers. I shove the photos into my bag, tiptoeing to the hallway. The study door creaks shut behind me, locking with a click I didn't trigger. Panic surges. I creep downstairs, the footsteps stopping as I move. The living room is empty, but a chair is tipped over, the shoes gone from the table. My breath catches. Someone's here, playing with me, moving things to unnerve me. I grab my phone, ready to call 911, but a text from Evelyn pops up. Leave the study alone, Nora, it's private. How does she know? My blood runs cold. Is she watching, or is someone else? I bolt for the door, but it sticks again, the handle resisting. A shadow flickers in the hallway mirror. Tall, indistinct, gone when I turn. My heart pounds. I force the door open, sprinting to my car, the notebook and photos heavy in my bag. The house looms behind me, its windows like eyes, watching. What's Evelyn hiding, and who or what is guarding her secrets? I drive to Sarah's, my hands trembling. The notebook and photos a heavy weight in my passenger seat. Sarah's face pales as I show her the photos, the notebook, Mark's cold eyes staring from the page. You need to tell Evelyn you're done, she says. I nod, but guilt gnaws at me. Evelyn trusted me and I broke her rule. Yet the shoes, the handprint, the locked door, they're not my imagination. I text Evelyn, keeping it vague. Found some things. Can we talk? Her reply is instant. Come back tomorrow, we'll sort it out. My stomach twists. Go back? Every instinct screams no. I stay at Sarah's, but sleep eludes me. The man's eyes from my dream haunting every shadow. Morning comes and I return, driven by a need for answers. The house looms, its windows dark, the air thick with dread. I unlock the door, the creak echoing, and step inside. The living room is unchanged, but the shoes are back on the table, neatly paired, like a taunt. My heart races. I didn't move them. I check the mirror, the handprint's gone, but a new smudge marks the frame, fresh. Someone's been here, toying with me. I climb to the study, the notebook guiding my search. I find a hidden panel behind, a bookshelf, my fingers brushing a latch. It opens, revealing a box of letters, some addressed to Mark, others to Evelyn, all dated years ago. One letter, crumpled, reads, "You can't keep me here." My blood runs cold. Was Mark trapped, a victim, or something worse? A creak sounds behind me and I spin, the flashlight catching a shadow in the doorway, tall, indistinct, gone in a blink. My breath catches, I'm not alone. I grab the letters, stuffing them into my bag, and run downstairs. The front door's locked, the key jamming. I panic, the unease now a scream in my chest, and force the door open, fleeing to my car. Evelyn's car pulls up as I reach it, her face stern. "Nora, what's going on?" she asks, her eyes flicking to my bag. I hesitate, then spill everything. The shoes, the notebook, the letters. Her face hardens. "You shouldn't have gone into the study," she says, her voice cold. I step back, fear spiking. Is she protecting someone? Or hiding her own secrets? I hand her the keys, my voice shaking. "I can't do this anymore," I say, claiming work conflicts to avoid the truth. She takes them, her eyes unreadable, and drives off. I speed away, the house shrinking in my rear view, but its weight stays with me. At Sarah's, I read the letters, each one darker. Mark's pleas, Evelyn's silence. Was he her prisoner, her partner, or a ghost of her past? The house holds the truth, but I'll never go back. Its shadows, its secrets are too heavy, and I'm done being their keeper. I sit at Sarah's, the notebook and letters spread across her table. Their secrets. A weight I can't shake. Mark's pleas echo in my mind. "You can't keep me here." And Evelyn's cold words, "You shouldn't have gone into the study," haunt me. I'm still shaken, the unease lingering, a constant reminder of those days in that house. I've cut contact with Evelyn, ignoring her texts, but the house's shadow clings, its mysteries unsolved. I never went back, never told Evelyn the truth, afraid she'd think I was crazy. But I know what I saw, what I felt. The shoes, the handprints, the eyes in the photo watching me. I dig online, searching for Mark, for the house's history. Local forums mention break-ins, disappearances, some linked to Evelyn's street. One post, years old, describes a man, Mark, seen arguing with Evelyn, then vanishing. No arrests, no answers. My heart sinks. Was he a victim, trapped by Evelyn's secrets, or part of something darker? I share the notebook's entries with Sarah, who urges me to go to the police. I hesitate. Evelyn's a family friend, trusted, respected. But those letters, those photos, they're evidence of something wrong, something hidden in that house. I meet Mrs. Carter again, showing her Mark's photo. Her eyes widen. "That's him," she whispers. "He lived there, then disappeared." Evelyn said he moved, but I never believed her. She mentions lights in the study at night, even now, years later. My skin crawls. Is someone still there, guarding the house's secrets? I consider reporting it, but the police need more than photos and hunches. I keep the evidence locked in a safe, a reminder of what I escaped. The house is a puzzle I'll never solve, its truths buried too deep. That experience changed me, sharpened my instincts, taught me to trust the prickle of fear, the voice that screamed, "Leave," when I found the shoe. I'm cautious now, wary of favors, of houses that feel wrong. I've learned to listen, to act, to protect myself when the world turns hostile. Evelyn's house was a lesson in survival, its shadows a warning I'll carry forever. I'm stronger, but the fear lingers, a scar from those days, a reminder of how close I came to uncovering something I wasn't meant to know. This isn't just a strange job, it's a warning etched in my soul. Trust your gut, it sees what your eyes miss. Houses hold secrets, some benign, some deadly, and not every door should be opened. I survived, but others might not. Is Evelyn still hiding the truth? Her house a trap for the next unwary soul? Are there others, their stories locked in that study? Their faces in her photos? The world is vast and secrets hide in plain sight. Will you take the next key offered, or walk away, knowing what might wait inside? The faucet was running. I froze, my hand on the doorknob of the gardener's quarters, as the sound of water hissed through the walls of a house I was told was empty. I'd been hired to house-sit a remote California farm, a 17-hour drive from my home, but no one mentioned the locked main house, or the fact that something was already inside. My name is Chloe, and this is the story of the creepiest job I ever took, where the quiet of the Emerald Triangle hid a presence that knew my every move. The water stopped, but the silence was worse. It was watching me, and I was alone. I was 34, fresh off a seasoned trimming weed in Northern California when the offer came. I had recently moved from a major city to a small town in the Midwest to get myself together. I'd been living on the West Coast and worked for a couple who were pot farmers, just trimming their weed for one season with a few other trimmers. The man, mid-30s, was a total jerk and super protective of his weed, and his girlfriend was someone that I wouldn't normally get along with, but she was okay. They paid me a portion up front. He said the rest would come after he sold a few pounds of whatever, because that was just how the business went. They did end up paying me within a few weeks, so all was good with me in the end. But the man, Greg, gave me bad vibes, controlling, secretive. He kept texting me after I moved mid-country with random, "Hey, how are you doing?" sort of thing. I ignored most, but when his girlfriend Tara texted about house-sitting while they vacationed in Morocco, I couldn't resist. The wife or girlfriend started messaging me via text nearing spring after I'd worked for them trimming weed that fall season, asking if I would be available to house-sit for them while they were on vacation out of the country. I didn't have a permanent job set up yet, and they were offering good money to house-sit, plus some extra money trimming weed that they had left over from the season. I drove 17 hours to the Emerald Triangle, dollar signs in my eyes. Stupidly, I drove my butt 17 hours with dollar signs in my eyes, and all the hell that was from there. The farm was isolated, a sprawling property with a main house and attached gardener's quarters, surrounded by fields and dense forest. They have a full house with a gardener's quarters attached to their main house. There's a one-bedroom, a bathroom, an electric stove, kettle, or kitchen area in the gardener's bedroom. There's also a doorway from this area into the main house, blocked by a bookshelf on my side. Greg and Tara were there for 2 days, showing me the ropes, feed the dogs, fill the hummingbird feeders, trim leftover weed. They were there for 2 to 3 days, and part of their stay included drilling the door shut on the opposite side so that I could not enter their house. To be honest, that did not bother me, and I honestly understood why they blocked up their house like that. But their secrecy, whispered conversations, quick glances, set my nerves on edge. The first night alone, I settled into the gardener's quarters, the dogs curled up outside. I'd been there alone for a few days, just trimming weed, walking the dogs, filling the hummingbird feeders, watching the house like I was supposed to. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that amplifies every creak. Then I heard the sound of water, faint but unmistakable, from the main house. I started to hear water running from the kitchen inside of the house, the part of the house that I had no access to but was directly connected to. I checked the gardener's sink, dry. The noise was coming from beyond the locked door where no one should be. I texted Tara, my heart racing. I immediately called the couple or texted them maybe and told them that I could hear someone in their house. Her reply was chilling. "It's none of your concern what you hear on the other side of the wall." Their response was literally, "It's none of your concern what you hear on the other side of the wall." My stomach twisted. This really turned my stomach. I was in the middle of nowhere, locked by a gate on their property, hired to house sit, and all of a sudden it was not my concern if someone was inside of their house. I was alone, no phone service, 2 weeks left on this job, and something was wrong. It freaked me out, and I still had 2 more weeks to be at this place without phone service too, and I was properly freaked out at this point. I double-checked. The locks, my mind racing. Was someone in there, or something else? The dogs, usually lazy, were restless, pacing the porch. I didn't sleep, clutching a kitchen knife, listening for that water, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The water was just the beginning. The farm felt alive, its silence a mask for something watchful, waiting. Over the next few days, though, I would feel scared and calm in waves. The dogs were my only comfort, but even they were off, whining at the main house's walls. I was sitting outside with the dogs, and they all ran up to the side of the house, wagging their tails like they were greeting someone. I heard a very quiet shush and footsteps patter off. I froze, peering around the corner, but no one was there. The dogs returned, confused, as if they'd chased a ghost. I continued to hear the TV, microwave, water running from the main part of the house. I started documenting everything in a notebook. Day 3, 11 p.m., water again, dogs barking at nothing. Day 4, 2 a.m., TV static from the house, no one inside. Writing it down kept me sane, but it didn't explain the noises. Microwaves beeping, footsteps creaking, whispers too faint to decipher. The language the girl or wife was using with me via text was too personal in regard to what I was doing. Tara's check-in texts were oddly specific. "Don't leave dishes out, Chloe." How did she know? I mean, sure, they could have had a camera installed, although I scoured the room for any device. I found no cameras, but the feeling of being watched grew, a weight on my chest. One afternoon, I was trimming weed when the dogs bolted to the fence, growling at the forest. I followed, my heart pounding, and saw movement, branches snapping, a shadow darting between trees. I called out, but no answer, just the wind and a faint metallic clink like keys jingling. Back at the house, I found the gardener's door ajar, though I'd locked it. Inside, my journal was open to a new page, a single word scrawled in shaky pen: leave. It wasn't my handwriting. I slammed the door, my hands trembling, and wedged a chair under the handle. I texted Tara again, demanding answers. The girlfriend, or wife, would call from Morocco every so often to check up on me. Her reply was curt: "Focus on your job, Chloe. Don't poke around." I thought that everything was fine, to be honest, until I started to hear water running from the kitchen. Her dismissal fueled my fear. I called my friend Mia, who'd worked with me trimming. "Get out," she said. "That place sounds sketchy." But I was stuck. No car, no signal, and Greg owed me money. They did end up paying me within a few weeks, so all was good with me in the end. I couldn't leave, not yet. But I wasn't. Alone, and whatever was in that house knew it. I started sleeping with the light on, the knife under my pillow. The noises grew bolder, knocks on the walls, a low hum like a generator, always from the main house. One night, I heard laughter, soft and mocking, through the bookshelf door. I pressed my ear to it, my breath shallow, and felt a cold draft, as if something stood on the other side, listening back. I backed away, my pulse racing, and wrote, "Day 7, 1 a.m. Laughter, cold air, something's here." The farm wasn't just a job anymore. It was a trap, and I was running out of time. The farm's secrets were unraveling, each night a step closer to something I couldn't name. One night, I was out in the small porch steps, having a very late cigarette. It had to be 11 to midnight. I could hear someone walking around the perimeter of the house. I froze, the cigarette burning my fingers as footsteps crunched in the gravel, slow and deliberate. I stood, heart pounding, and opened the gardener's door, slamming it shut to fake going inside. I stood up, opened the door to the gardener's quarters, and closed the door as if I had walked back inside. But I just opened the door and closed it to give that impression, keeping my position with the cigarette on the porch. That is, immediately someone walked from the side of the house because they thought that I went inside, noticed me, and then ran into the woods. I spun, catching a glimpse, a figure, tall, cloaked in shadow, sprinting into the forest. In my mind, I set up a tiny trap to see if I was just delusional, and it proved that I wasn't. My blood ran cold. This wasn't imagination. Someone, or something, was here, watching, waiting for me to let my guard down. I locked myself in, checking. The windows, the dogs growling outside. The noises from the main house intensified. Water, footsteps, a door slamming. The sounds and even the dogs reacting to what I heard was enough for me. I grabbed my notebook, writing frantically. Day 10, midnight. Figure outside. Ran when I saw it. House louder, like it's angry. The next day, I searched the property, finding fresh footprints in the mud. Boots, size 11, too big for Greg or Tara. They led to the forest, then stopped, as if the wearer vanished. I photographed them, my hands shaking, and sent them to Mia. Call the cops, she texted. But what would I say? I had no proof, just fear and a house that felt alive. I checked the gardener's quarters, finding scratches on the doorframe, fresh and deep like claws. The dogs wouldn't go near it, their hackles raised. That night, the presence grew bolder. I was trimming weed when the power flickered, plunging the room into darkness. A low hum vibrated through the walls, followed by a knock, slow, deliberate, from the bookshelf door. I grabbed my knife, backing away as the knock came again, louder, insistent. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice trembling. No answer, just silence, then a whisper. My name, soft and cold, like a breath on my neck. I ran outside, the dogs barking wildly, and stayed on the porch until dawn, too scared to go back in. I called Tara, my voice breaking. "There's someone in your house." I immediately called the couple, or texted them maybe, and told them that I could hear someone in their house. She dismissed me again. "You're imagining things, Chloe. 2 days left. Do your job." Their response was literally, "It's none of your concern what you hear on the other side of the wall." Her words were a slap, but they lit a fire. I wasn't crazy. Something was here, and I wouldn't wait to find out what it wanted. The final 2 days were a nightmare. The noises never stopped. Knocks, whispers, footsteps circling the house. I started to have some fun with it. I don't know if I figured that I was going to die anyway, or that if maybe I acted crazy enough, they wouldn't want me for whatever their purposes were. I started doing crazy, dumb stuff because I was alone. Nothing too wild. I just blasted Backstreet. Boys set up their garbage cans like a drum set and walked around topless. Honestly, I thought that if these people were crazy enough to watch me while I house sat for them, I had to do something more ridiculous to push them away. I played music loud, left lights on, anything to feel in control. But the presence didn't care. It was always there, just out of sight, its whispers growing clearer. "Chloe, stay." On the last night, I was packing when the dogs went berserk, lunging at the forest. I grabbed my flashlight, shining it into the trees, and saw it. Eyes. Glowing red, unblinking, staring from the shadows. Not human, not animal, just wrong. I backed away, my breath ragged as the hum returned, louder, shaking the ground. The main house's lights flickered on, though no one was inside, casting long shadows across the yard. I ran to the gardener's, quarters locking the door, but the knocks followed, pounding the walls, my name echoing in the dark. Greg and Tara returned the next morning, acting like nothing was wrong. The couple finally came back to their house from Morocco and acted like they didn't want to pay me. They did after some pulling and tugging, but man, don't ever go house sit and not really know the people you're house sitting for in the Emerald Triangle like I did. They paid me, but their eyes were cold, evasive, as if they knew what I'd faced. I left, my notebook clutched tight, the photos on my phone a haunting reminder. I would like to share a lot of details, but the gist of it is that someone was at their house the entire time that I was house sitting. I'm back in Colorado now, safe but not untouched. I still hear those whispers sometimes, see those eyes in my dreams. The farm was a lesson. Trust your gut. Question the deals too good to be true, and never ignore the signs. I thought that everything was fine, to be honest, until I started to hear water running from the kitchen. I keep my doors locked, my phone charged, and I don't take jobs from strangers anymore. But the farm's shadow lingers, a question unanswered. What was in that house? And what did it want with me? I may never know, but I feel it out there waiting in the weeds. You've heard them all. The haunting whispers, the unexplained disappearances, the things lurking just out of sight. But the truth is, these stories don't end when the screen goes dark. The places we spoke of, the roads, the forests, the towns, they're still there. And what happened there hasn't been forgotten. Now you're part of these stories. You may feel it when you walk alone at night, or when you hear that soft, eerie sound in the distance. You'll wonder, is it just your imagination? Or is it something else? If you think this is where it ends, it's only the beginning. There are more stories, deeper, darker, and even closer than you think. Subscribe and stay tuned, because next time we'll uncover what's waiting just behind the veil.